All right, guys, welcome back. We are watching Owarimonogatari Season 2, Episode 6. Ougi Dark, Part 2. We are in the end game, or it feels like the end game. Last time, well, Guy Nizuko gives a little rundown in the park of kind of the history and everything that has led us to this moment. Why we need a god on the shrine, which is going to be Hajikuji, of course. And our big obstacle to all of that being Ougi, being the thing that is preventing us from maintaining the balance in the town. Despite Ougi, being the one who loves balance in a sense, right? You know how it is. Um, it's time. I don't know. It's time for Aragi to face her and like himself essentially, right? I don't know. I don't know. I wonder, as Ogi said a couple episodes ago, there's one last thing she has to do, right? Something she would be willing to die for, which Aragi can understand that feeling, very much so. I wonder what that thing is, unless it really is just so simple that it's something to do with Aragi himself, of course, right? This is all right before high school graduation. We've talked about the obvious like meaning behind that date for Aragi and Ogi. So I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We have a plan. We have our counterattack plan, apparently. Ganizuko needs to kind of lay it out still. Her plan is to exterminate Ogi, which I don't want us to do, and I don't want Aragi to want that either, but we'll see. We'll see. So, we're watching Ogi Dark Part 2. You can line and copy up with this if you want to. We are starting in 3, 2, 1. Let me read the lyrics this time. We normally don't get the opening right at the start of episodes in Monogatari. Hmm. Oh, I love this opening actually. Like, ooh, that is an interesting line. That feels relevant. Gotta face yourself. Ah, oh, when no one else knows. Hmm. Huh. Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm not ready. I'm actually just not ready. What is that thing in the middle of the park, anyway? The like weird red thing up there. As well, she is one. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that does. Hmm. Hmm. Right? God, this feels like an intervention, you know? All of them sitting around him. Right. Fan. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. I wonder if Kambaru being the one to introduce her has some, like, specific meaning. I think we talked about that before. Yeah, yeah. So what's the meaning behind Oshi now, huh? I mean, it kind of makes sense to me. Ooh, what is she really? It's a hard question to answer. Oh, okay, but that's not the plan now? Oh, he's so upset, yeah. Ah, well, that's not really how we've dealt with just about any apparition or oddity, you know? Ah, yeah, Ougi talked about this, right? Like melting it down or whatever, forging it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know how that works, but sure. Because it was made out of his flesh and bones, right? Of course, right, right. That's her job. So, sure. Ah, okay. You can count on his assistance. The standard approach, like the way Hanakawa dealt with the tiger or something, you know? Like, you gotta deal with it. Deal with the underlying problem. Have you? Oh, really? Huh? Yeah. One of the biggest, like, mysteries. Water. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Huh. And she had a similar oddity to Aragi. Maybe that is, yeah, that is true about Aragi in a sense, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's no, I can see it. Hajikuchi disagrees. No, I can see it. I can. I totally can. What's did she do exactly? I mean, she's dead. I don't know. Oh, you've got to save yourself, right? Ah, no, but it's huh. Okay. She's defined as an unknown, so hmm. Really? Oh, right. Of course, the darkness. So because she's been lying this whole time, but Aragi's like knowledge of it would be what would trigger it, I guess. That's interesting. Huh. I wonder why. Okay. Ooh, all of these scenes, yeah, that we've had Ogi in, right? Uh that was like chronological even, wasn't it? Huh. Yeah, yeah. I like that. I kind of like that phrasing, calling her like ordinary. Yeah. I mean, we know she was a very principled. Yeah, it was the rainy devil. Okay. Oh, really? That's how it always works, huh? Because tonight is the ending, and we can't have a happy one. Yeah, yeah. Oh, running through his head. Yeah. Ah, right. Right. And where did that lead you? Oh, okay. But what does that mean? Right? Like, I won't save her. Because he has to save himself, but it's okay. It's okay. That's right. Is this Nautico? What are we doing? Okay, that was so mean. Oh, we're drawing manga? Oh my god, I love this. Uh, Surely that's not why she's doing it, right? Aw. Oh, it looks so good. Mm-hmm. That's right. Right. Oh. Hmm? Really? Ah, my god. Nautico, I love you. What is Skihi like? Right, yeah, yeah. It's like hard for her to define it, right? That whole idea of like what it means to be a monster. Okay. And that could be reason enough. Ah, just thank you. Exactly, right? It's so like contradictory in a way. Also, she's wearing the same outfit Karen was wearing in the toothbrush episode. I just want to point that out. Hmm. Okay. Oh. She can bring herself to say his name and think about him at least. As well, it kind of is, right? It's what you're dedicating yourself to. Oh my god, I love this so much. Like, huh. People who kind of wander and don't have like a set plan. Yeah. Aw. Really? Yeah. Aw. Oh my god. I love this so much. Oh, god. Straight from Kaiki. Yeah. God. Okay, I gotta lock in. Hi, Ogi. What's up? Have you ever... Did you? Ah, right. Doing our normal thing, of course. Hmm. Says he's very proud of her. Where are we going, Ogi? Skihi, what are you doing? It's like her hair is too long, she has to wrap it around her arms. Oh. It's it's great one, Ogi. That was a good one. And that's what really matters. That's what she said. Ah, yeah. God. What are we doing here? Hmm. What do you mean by cute, exactly, you know? Right. I agree. Yeah. What cute meant to her was nothing good. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Drastic measures. And was that Ogi's goal in interacting with her, right? So it feels so like symbolic. It's like a cross. She doesn't know. She's herself, right? That's all she can really ever be. Don't really have anything. Ooh, to form the future. That is a way to phrase it. Omnipotence, really. Okay. That would make sense, if that's what she thinks of you. Yeah, that's true of anyone. I think that's inevitable. Yeah, she doesn't know anything about that. I agree. I agree. Depends on the definition of live. Ah, God. I mean, it's like we're so back, you know? Like, oh. God, it's weird hearing her called that. Yeah, where are we going? So is Skihi the one who's like the target here? This is a very familiar place, isn't it? It's not supposed to exist anymore. Yeah. Ah, the ghost of a building. Right. Ooh, 0000. Of course, that would be like, yeah, that makes sense. Of course, this would be where we end everything, huh? Assuming this is where everything will go down. Oh, really? Uh-huh, uh-huh. Right. Hmm. One line long. Okay. And her having hidden her identity from Araragi this whole time. Like, kind of. He's kind of also known the whole time. What does that exactly mean? Well, I mean, ooh, maybe so. Because they have nothing left to lose. I don't know. That's what Ougi herself said. Huh. Right, right. So God, like maybe there'll be an even bigger plot twist. Yeah, if we're talking about mystery novels. Right body. Hmm. Yeah. Oh. Huh. Of course she feels like that about herself, obviously. Ooh. She said the same thing to Araragi. Ah. Yeah. Huh. Well, is that really... I don't know. Okay, okay. Ah, there's so much, like, in all of that. Oh, I'm jealous. Because of, like, who she is. Like, what makes her up. What she's defined as. I've been waiting for you. God. What a throwback. Sending Skihi back, huh? Oh, God. My heart is, like, racing right now. Oh, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Oh. Right. Ooh. What a pitiful existence to return to, huh? Yeah. Hachikuji? Yeah. Once everything's resolved. Yeah, have we figured it out? Convenience. Oh, she knows, right? She's like so resigned to it. Oh. And of course, Skihi would be her final job, huh? Oh. And yet, her identity was revealed. Hmm. Oh. Yeah. Hmm. Oh. Won't be as lucky? Ah, the face we keep cutting back to with him. Oh. Still consumed by her eyes, right? Oh. What you want to do. It's come up a lot in this episode. Yeah, but is it really you? What's the difference? Huh. Sure. I think there's more to it than that. Yeah, her only way to still exist, right? It's up to him. Oh. Yeah, like the blank face we keep cutting back to. Oh, that's the correct answer. If she's saying it's the right thing, though. Oh, really? Yeah. And what does that mean? Oh, God. Okay. Okay, 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 okay. Oh my god. Oh my god. I gotta calm down. I gotta chill out. I gotta lay down. I don't know. I don't know. I gotta man. We're here, right? There's so much to this. Like there's so much to this, right? Like there's oh god. Oh man. God. Okay. 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 Let's calm down. Sorry, I don't know. I don't know. I gotta like oh god. We're here, right? We're here. Araragi is confronting himself, right? Oh man. Oh god. Oh god. There's just so much. There's so much. There's so many things, like what does that even mean? I don't know. we'll talk about the episode in the discussion. Okay, let's talk about the episode. God damn, that was an episode, huh? It's like that was like feels like one of the most packed episodes ever. I was just thinking like all of this felt like it was an entirely different episode. This whole like first, I don't even know, 8 minutes of it. Like, God, that was such a good episode. There's so much stuff to think about. I feel like there's so many like specific lines even. I really want to make sure to, like, think about, I guess. This scene with Nadeko and Skihi, this has to be, like, my favorite scene in the whole show. I don't know, this was so good. This, like, made me feel so oh, man. It just feels amazing. I just love it. I love this so much. It's what we needed. We needed something like this with Nadeko, because, like, it was kinda after, after what happened with Kaiki and all of that, like, we haven't seen her, and this feels so, like, oh, God, it's so good. I absolutely love it. Obviously, I mean, we're here, right? Aragi is confronting himself, and I think there's a lot that that means. There's a lot of meaning behind that, behind him confronting Ougi, who is him, right? I love the way he phrases it. It's just you are me, not even like, you're an oddity, you're an oddity created by my thoughts or whatever, right? No, she is him, like sure, right? A very much like a critical part of his identity, right? That's as I'm saying that, I'm kind of realizing how important that like thought is. If she is him, surely the answer can't be to destroy her, right? To exterminate her. That can't be it. That's what Ogi said would be the right thing to do, which that is really something to think about. Is the answer going along with Ogi's like way of doing things, which is kind of like Aragi's whole fundamental thing of his right and wrong and all of that, would be to destroy her, would be to reject what she is and all of that, and exterminate her, and that just can't be the answer, right? That can't be the answer at all. So, man, it's just like I there's a lot of talk in this episode about the idea of living, right? Like what it means to be alive versus just being alive. Right? It's kind of hard to like define the difference, but I think we all know what that means, right? It's like how Skihi said about Nautico that it's like she was dead before, right? It's like and now she's really alive. It's that obvious difference. Everyone like knows what that means. And I think I think a reason why that's such a subject in this episode, such a core like theme throughout it, is because of like the whole like undertone here about what Ogi like is for Araki. I think there is this clear like suicidality like angle of it in a sense, right? That I think either Ogi being destroyed or Ogi winning and like what defeating Aragi, whatever that would mean, is in a sense kind of like this self-destruction. This yeah, I mean even Gainizuka said it's like pair annihilation in a way. And I think that would be bad too. At the very least, it would be if you don't want to go as far as to say it's like a literal like suicide in a sense, but you can kind of imagine that in a way at the very least, it's like killing some part of Aragi that I don't think should be killed. I think it's very much playing into like all of the problems in Aragi's head that made Ogi exist in the first place if he allows her to just be exterminated, right? Like what does that mean for him? That's just him continuing to play into the way that Ogi thinks he should be living his life and all of that, right? Which can't be correct. This episode I think is just so strong just by itself. I literally feel like this might be the strongest like standalone episode of the entire show. Is that like crazy? Maybe there's been so many episodes that I'm definitely just like recency bias is very strongly affecting me for sure. But like God, it feels like there was such a strong like just the talks about living, the talks about the future, and all of that. It just felt like such a powerful thing throughout that just really oh, yeah, no, just what a ridiculously good episode. Like, man, so good. So good. Um, we get a lot of info about Guy and Toei, who has continued to be like one of the, as we've mentioned many times, kind of one of the biggest like untold, I guess like mysteries of the show in a sense. There's so much stuff that's happened to her. Just her whole past, I guess, is kind of tied up with all the stuff that the whole like occult research club, whatever their group was called back then in college, everything that they did and all that stuff, right? Oninoki's creation and Gaintoe's death, whatever happened with that, Taiki and his connection to her, just all that stuff, right? I guess I kind of just think of Gaintoe as feeling like she's representative of all of that in a way. I gotta turn on my fan. Um, and we get some information about her, like finally in this episode. Been a while since we've learned much about her. We learned that apparently the Rainy Devil was also the word that Guy Nizuka uses for it was like a quasi darkness type oddity. A I suppose in that sense a representation, a manifestation of what Gantoe thinks the rules should be or are, right? Which makes complete sense. We know from Hana, like the opening, like scenes of Hana, that Gantoe, yes, as Gainizuka put it, was very tough on others and tough on herself, in the sense of her having this very rigid, structured, like ideology, the way she viewed the world, the whole being a poison or being a cure, otherwise you're just plain water. That whole thing, right? Man, which I like now that I'm thinking back on it, if you really want to go down like the symbology like wormhole, I'm just thinking about like the scenes that we've had of Araragi seeming like he's drowning, right? Like in My Way Hell, how we started with Araragi being underwater. And then there's the scene later when he was talking to Hajikuji before he got revived, where he was like suddenly underwater. Is it crazy of me to say that there's some kind of connection between that and like Gaintoe because of like the whole water thing? Maybe that's just seriously me reaching, but I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, that is all very very interesting, huh? That Gantoe went through something similar with the Rainy Devil, it being that representation for her. It gives me a lot of questions, like why did Gantoe give her daughter Kanbaru the Rainy Devil hand? Why did she even do that in the first place, right? I don't really think that's really been mentioned. Man, it's been a long time since I watched Tsuruga Monkey, so if it was mentioned at all beyond just her saying her mother gave it to her, I don't really remember exactly like what the context of it was. But yeah, yeah. So we also like another thing that returns in this episode that like very strongly is the whole idea of like the being a monster versus being a human, right? And what that means. Something that way back in Kizu, we get some other callbacks, like Araragi literally thinking about the decision he made at the end of Kizu, something that's haunted him for a long time, right? Uh, yeah, the whole thing in Kizu was about that idea of being a monster versus being a human and what that meant to Araragi. And Ougi is formed through a lot of those like thoughts and feelings that are very like adjacent to that and connected to that way of thinking that he had back then. And all of that stuff. And that is brought back up in this episode a lot, right? What it means to be a monster, what it means to be a human. Ogi's final like target, the thing that she said to Aragi, I guess, that she was willing to die for was Skihi, right? What was she gonna do with Skihi? What was her job with her exactly? Was it to somehow make Aragi reject her, right? Because through Aragi's acceptance of Skihi back in Nisei, back in Skihi Phoenix, that was, representative of him like accepting himself, right? The whole conflict of that arc was Aragi thinking of himself as this horrible monster who doesn't fit in his family anymore because he's changed, he's allowed himself to be influenced by others and all that stuff. And accepting Skihi as a sister was, metaphorical of him metaphorically representing him accepting like himself, right? Skihi has always kind of represented that, right? Like this like monster like thing, Whether or not you want to say it's like specifically, being like the monster side of Aragi in a way, because obviously they are, both of the sisters kind of feel like they are very similar to Aragi in one specific sense. Karen with the whole justice stuff, the whole like humanity thing. Skihi on the other end of it. Yeah, that really comes back a lot in this episode. And Ougi targeting Skihi kind of makes complete sense, because if that's the fundamental problem, the fundamental issue of all of this is all just this identity crisis that Araragi is having because of his inability to accept, like, essentially that he is him still, despite how much he's changed and all of that, right? And that's yeah, and if Skihi and his acceptance of her is in some sense a representation of that, Ogi targeting her makes complete sense, right? God, and yeah, it's like he his dynamic with Guy and Izuko at the start here, it's I don't know. He gets mad, right? He doesn't want them to be calling her a monster and all of this stuff. Um, at the same time, it's interesting because, like, he still think of himself as a monster in some way? You know what I mean? Like, how, like, what level of, like, meta, I guess, in a way, maybe that's the wrong word, are we supposed to, like, think of this on? You know, it's like, because in a way, Aragi defending Ogi from being called a monster and saying we should exterminate her and all of this, right? It's like it's like I want to say that that says something about the way he feels about himself, of course, right? Ogi like being him. But can you imagine Aragi doing that, right? Aragi has always killed himself to help other people. That's right. What's the difference here, you know? It's time for him to do that. He needs to go exterminate Ogi. He needs to go exterminate himself to save everyone else, you know? So him like being willing to defend her like this is interesting. I guess you could just say the difference is this is before it's been, you know, specifically shoved in his face. He's unable to look the other way and ignore it anymore. That Ogi is him, right? And things change, I guess, once he knows that it's him. I don't want him to keep going down that path. You know, we said it so many times, I won't keep repeating it, but I don't want that to be the answer for Ogi, for him to exterminate her or whatever, and what all of that means. So God. I don't know. I don't know. Like, because in this moment, he's still viewing Ogi through the lens of, oh, she's another person, so he's defending her, right? I still want him to have that attitude. That's like the thing, right? I still want him to. The other thing about all of it too is like him recognizing that Ogi is him and what that means. Like, think about how much weight that has for Araragi. Like, all of the things that Ogi has like done, right? Or even trying to kill him, trying to get him exterminated, requesting, you know, being the one who requested to Datsuru to do all that stuff, right? Like just think about like what that means for him, right? Like this, it's been yourself doing that, the consequences of your own mind and your own like you know, what does that mean about the way he feels about himself and everything? So it's just it has to be a really hard pill to swallow for him to accept that Ogi is him. I mean, that's why he hasn't been doing it the whole time, even though he's kind of known, obviously in the back of his mind, this whole time that what Ogi is. You know, he said as much in the opening monologue at the start of this arc. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to it. There's so many like ways to think of it, and there's so many like different angles at which you can like dissect like what's going on here, depending on like the way in which you even want to view it, like how deeply you want to try and like think about it, you know. And I think like every layer of it, like even at like the very surface, they all just have like their own like unique like ways to think about it. It's very like man, it's impossible to cover all of that. That's for sure. It would be impossible for me to even like think about all of it, right? Like, yeah, yeah. Are you calling her Ogi-chan simply because you believed her when she named herself called herself Oshino Ogi? This feels like a whole like intervention, right? Like all these people sitting around Aragi dissecting his like mind and what he's been doing for the past like 6 months and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah. Um, Hajikuji brings up, like, yeah, she was introduced as a fan, by Kanbaru. It's like I feel like we talked about this before, but is there some kind of specific meaning behind Kanbaru being the one to introduce Ogi to him? Like, we know now that there's this connection between God Toei and Araragi because of the whole like and you know what, it's kind of funny because that's always been there in a way. Because remember back in Hatagi End, we talked about that a lot. How for Kaiki, Gaintoe was to him what like Aragi was kind of like to Nadeko, right? How Kaiki and Nadeko both got to, you know, it felt like there's this connection between Gaintoe and Aragi in that sense. Um, and now that's very much panned out even more. But yeah, there's this very extreme connection between them in terms of them both making these quasi darkness oddities. Uh, and Kanbaru obviously is Gantoe's daughter. Is there some kind of meaning behind Kanbaru introducing Ogi to Araragi, like otherwise? I can't really think of anything. You could view it through the lens, I think this is what I said before, through the lens of how like Araragi views Kanbaru and like all of the, you know, the way he feels about her and all of that. You could say there's something there, her being the one to introduce Ogi to him, but I don't know. I don't know. I can't really think of much like specific meaning behind it. Behind Ogi being introduced as this specifically, right? A fan, in other words, Ogi. Exactly, exactly. Learned a word. But what about her last name? Yeah, Oshino, which is a name that has some meaning, but the last name Oshino is a little more complicated. See, I've always thought of it just in the way of, Oshino Mime, right? Like after Aragi lost Oshino, who was his, someone who did kind of guide him in a sense and all of that. And like the regret he felt about all of that, like the first few episodes of Nisei. I think, him wanting Ogi is kind of like this manifestation of him wanting someone to like guide him in a way, this literal manifestation of the rules. And I thought that her having the name Oshino just made sense because of that connection between who he lost, who was kind of like his, his teacher in a way before Oshino Mime, now there's Oshino Ogi. But apparently there's more to it. There's also Shinobu, right? Obviously, Oshino Shinobu, but what would I say the connection there is? In a way, obviously, Shinobu and Ogi, you could definitely say they represent, like, contrasting things, the same way that, like, Ogi and Hajikuji do, I guess. Um, but I don't know. I don't really know what that would have to do with her name exactly. It's certain that her claim of being Mime's niece is a lie. Right, of course, of course. What is she really? Well, what she is right now is an unknown. That is how she is defined, is an unknown. The loss of her identity is the only identity she has. She says something like that. Which is something that feels very meaningful for Aragi. We've talked about how the whole shrine and all of that, there being no god there to maintain balance. There being this void, as Kaiki would put it. All of that stuff feels like it's representative of like Araki and kind of his loss of like a guiding ideology and all of that stuff after what happened to him in Kizu and all of that, right? His foundationally his world was just shook up so much and all of that. And that's why, everything just kind of started after Kizu, right? That's why this whole idea of there needing to be a god on the shrine and everything, it feels like it like connects to me, right? Hajikuji taking that position, like makes sense, right? Um so in that sense, like if you view that as Aragi having lost his own identity, right, having lost like who he defined himself as and all of that, Ogi representing that as well, her literal identity being a loss of identity. Yeah, makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. So we gotta exterminate her, is Guy Nizuko's plan. We're gonna exterminate her with the demon sword Kokoro Watari, of course. Don't glare at me like that. Aragi doesn't like it. Slaying an apparition with the apparition killer normally wouldn't be a surprise, but we've like never done that, have we? Have we ever just dealt with like a personal oddity afflicting someone by cutting them down with the oddity slayer sword, like the tiger, but not really, right? Aragi stabbed the tiger, but he didn't like cut it to pieces. No, Hanakawa like absorbed it, right? She accepted everything that it is, accepted herself like through that, all of those feelings and everything. A very similar thing to what I want Aragi to do. There's never been a moment where the answer has been everything that an oddity represents, yeah, we're just going to destroy it and kill it, right? I don't like that answer. I don't like that answer at all. I think it is a surprise, right? I was trying to think, like, that wasn't the answer for the crab. That wasn't the answer for the monkey arm. That's for sure. Um, wasn't the answer for anything with Nadeko. Wasn't the answer for Anakawa. Like, no, right? So yeah, it is a surprise. That's right. Like, man. Because if you think about it, it's like, what does that represent? Oddities in the story have always represented, like, they're just these very, like, metaphorical, symbolic representations of, like, these internal problems these characters are facing. I guess in that case, it's like, what even is Heartspan? What even is the Oddity Slayer Apparition Killer Sword? What, like, I don't know. What would you say that even represents? I mean, I don't know. Just repressing it, just shutting it down completely. That just can't be a good answer, right? I do wonder, if the Rainy Devil was Gain Toei's like oddity that was a representation of her like rules and all of that, her like quasi darkness stuff, which we'll talk about more in a minute, because I think there's some interesting stuff to think about that. We know that the Rainy Devil's like cut up in pieces, right? It's like all the pieces are scattered about. Is that what they did with it? Well, no, I guess that can't really be it, right? Because Shinobu wasn't part of the picture back then. There would be no way for them to have used the Oddity Slayer sword to destroy it. So, no, that can't be it at all. So, I wonder how they dealt with that. I mean, we know Gantoe died. So that's just not very I just don't like that. I guess she already had her daughter and everything. Like Kanbaru existed to get the hand from her mother, um, before Gantoe died, of course. So I guess she already defeated the monkey by that point, the Rainy Devil. But man, it just feels like such a I don't know. I don't know. What's interesting about it is that the Rainy Devil is still kind of this like issue, right? Like it remained in the universe causing problems for both Kanbaru, Numachi, Kaiki, like all these characters, right? So if Guy Nizuko had a similar solution for it back then in some way, well, I don't know. It didn't seem like it worked out that well, huh? I just have so many questions about it. I need like an arc of that. Can we like have a flashback arc where it's Gun Toei is our narrator and she's dealing with the Rainy Devil? I would love that. That would be awesome. Hmm. So yes, the thing that Ougi mentioned forever ago about the melting down the first minion's armor to forge it into this sword, because yeah, it was made of the armor was made of his flesh and bones, the sword was made of his flesh and bones, all that stuff, right? Yeah, yeah. So Guy Izuko did indeed predict the appearance of Ougi. That's like her job, right? She said as much before. That she tries to stamp out oddities before they even exist. In this case, she failed at that. I still really feel like everything that happened in Shinobu Mail was like kind of maybe an attempt by Guy Nizuko to prevent all of this from happening, to prevent Ougi from existing in the first place, but maybe I'm just wildly theorizing that for no reason. I don't know. No different than someone who loots during a riot. She really wanted to eat the armor, huh? So, we don't have to do this the hard way, right? We're gonna do it we're gonna do the proper means, the standard approach to exterminate Oshino Ogi, which is, of course, um, what I think of when I hear that. The standard approach is like the method that Oshino would take, right? What Senjugahara did with the crab, what Hanakawa did with Black Hanakawa and the tiger, right? Is you resolve the issue that it represents, right? You have to deal with it in that way. Is that not the standard approach? What does that mean for Araragi? I guess I just think that if we take the route of exterminating her in some way, if we take the route of destroying her and, whatever, right? Letting the darkness destroy her even. That just can't I've said it so many times, that's just kicking the can down the road, right? That is not fixing internally the issue for Aragi. I feel like all this would do is in 5 years, Ogi 2 would spawn in, right? It's like, I don't know. And somehow, she would introduce herself to Aragi as, hi, I'm Ogi 2, and he would pretend to have no idea who she is, and we'd be back in the same situation, because he would not be dealing with what the actual problem is. Like, the extermination of Oshino Ogi, I think, is literally the exact opposite of what we need to do here. If it's all about the self-acceptance that Aragi needs to go on, both in the past for himself, the things that it feels like Ogi represents in a way, right? Coming to terms with all of that and like what she is and all that stuff, and like, who he is now in the future even. It's just, yeah, destroying her, exterminating her is just literally the opposite of what we need to do in those terms, right? Just speaking from experience, I wouldn't say it was exactly the same as Oshinogi, but I've seen an apparition similar to her in the past. So yeah, the Rainy Devil wasn't the exact same, huh? What do we know about the Rainy Devil, right? It grants your wishes. It gives you your wishes, um, but in this very like I don't know. It's like for Kanbaru, what it was her like, yeah, it gives you like the power to enact your wishes. It was like this thing that left her very distrustful of herself and like what's really like deep in her mind and all of that stuff. What does that like mean exactly? Like in terms of what we could say about Gantoe because of that, right? Gantoe's whole thing was like, oh, If you can't be a cure, you might as well be poison. Otherwise, you're just plain water. So, like what? Maybe pursuing what it is that you really want, no matter how unsightly and awful it may be. Like for Kombaru killing Araragi because of Sinjogahara, or beating up all those kids who were faster than her. All that stuff. Maybe from Gan Toei's point of view, right, if you like take her ideology to the extreme, that would be like being poison, because you can't be the cure, but that's better than being just water. And if you're just water, all you're doing is letting yourself stagnate and not pursuing, who you really are as a person, pursuing what you want, all of those things, right? So maybe that's why the Rainy Devil kind of like unlocks that for you, right? Gives you the ability, in a sense, maybe like forces you to, kind of unclear still, like how much like actual how much control Kombaru was in of her own actions in all of those moments, right? Um, but yeah, it grants your wishes in that way, right? It lets you pursue what it is that you want, forces you, I guess, to be poison if you can't be a cure. Maybe that like, kind of makes sense, I guess. So in that sense, it is a very different thing than Ougi, because rather than it doing like what Ougi did, which is this very like proactive thing, like herself going out there to enact the rules and all of that. Like what? Would you say the Rainy Devil requires a person to like seek it out and use it in some way? I guess kind of the difference here is obviously we're talking about the Rainy Devil and the way it works after it's like been shattered to pieces and all of this. It's been like dismembered. And I kind of assume at one point the Rainy Devil was not like that. So who knows what the Rainy Devil was like back when it was together, I guess. That's also a very like dark thing, isn't it? Like the Rainy Devil's like terrifying, It's this very like scary form compared to Ogi, who's just like this normal like high school girl, right? I think Ogi and her appearance and everything says something about like Araragi. I've kind of thought that her being 15, she's 15, right? Makes sense because that's like the age that Araragi was back when like the stuff in the classroom happened with Oikura and all of that. When he first made the decision, oh, I don't need friends, they weaken your humanity, all of that stuff, right? He was 15 back then. It was his first year of high school. So if in some way Ogi and her appearance and her actions and all of that reflect how Araragi feels about himself, God, then that's a fucking scary thing for Gain Toei if the Rainy Devil says something about her, right? Like, did she think of herself as poison in some way if it says something so negative about the way she must view herself to manifest as this horrifying creature that the Rainy Devil is, right? Huh. So yeah, it was her older sister, Gain Toei. Her mother, right. In a way, she was like you. As a grade schooler, I thought my older sister was trouble. I knew she was a dangerous individual. How to put it? She wasn't a monster, but she was like a monster. So, huh. In what way do you think we're using the word monster here? Like obviously, I mean it's the word monster, so there's a lot of meaning tied up in that word in this show, like thematically. But saying that Gain Toei wasn't a monster, but she was like one. Like what do you think that means exactly? It's interesting because in Gain Toei's case, like what Guy Nizuko is explaining right now is like fundamentally who she was as a person, right? Something that her like extreme like her having like this whole ideology that she strictly abides to, and this way of viewing the world in this lens that's so strong that she ends up creating this quasi darkness oddity. Like yeah, that's the kind of thing that Aragi would think of as being a very strong sense of like humanity, right? Because that's something that comes from within yourself and is like this structured way of viewing the world and all of that stuff. It very much represents like that kind of idea. So Gun Izuko saying she wasn't a monster, but she was like one. That's interesting, isn't it? And then of course, like yet again, the quasi darkness oddity that spawns in because of her is very monstrous, right? It's this terrifying creature thing, very different from Ogi, who just does look like a human, right? Hmm. Tough on herself and tough on others. this really is just like Araragi, isn't it? Like, she was very tough on herself and tough on others because of the way that she thought of the rules and all of that. This strict system that everyone should abide by, right? Of course that makes her tough on herself, and we know she was tough on like Kanbaru, right? The way that she, there's flashbacks, Kanbaru has nightmares about those things, when she was sleeping with her arm tied against the wall. I think for Aragi, it's the same. It's different, but it's the same as well at the same time. Like, yeah, he's very tough on himself. I think everyone can understand that. At the same time, it's like, have there been moments where Aragi like applies his system of right and wrong to other people? Outside of like Karen and Karen B with like the long conversation he has with her and like the near the end of that arc, I can't really think of many cases of it, but it's kind of impossible not to, right? Ougi is kind of a manifestation of that, right? Ougi and what she has been doing has essentially been Araragi being tough on others, because she is enacting the way that he thinks the world is and the way it should work. Everything that happened to Nadeko, everything that happened, her wanting to hunt down Hajikuji, all that stuff, right? That is Araragi being tough on others, right? Even if it's Ougi doing it, it's Aragi's thoughts, really, right? The tougher things got, the more she thought it was for good. Huh. That feels very different from how Aragi feels about it. Well, maybe not. Maybe not, because if you think of Kizu, right, Aragi's life was miserable. It was horrible, and he was suicidal, and it sucked, right? And yet, back in Kizu was when he was most in his whole like living out and enacting the way he thought he's supposed to live, right? Being fully human and all of that through having no connections to others and stuff. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of true, right? That things were very tough and bad for him, but he was doing the right thing. He was on the right path in a sense. I guess. But I digress. It's not that I want to explain my older sister's personality to you. I want you to. I want to hear anything I can about Gantoi. So, like, thank you. Thank you. Tough on oneself and tough on others. Did I have that kind of a personality? Hajikuchi doesn't think so, apparently. Like, what is this face? God. So, I'll have Kayumin do the same thing my older sister did. Interesting. That is very interesting, isn't it? God, I want to know. I want to know so bad everything that happened with Gantoe, like so badly. It's like, oh my God. If an arc existed right now where I could watch all of that, that would be really awesome. Like, God damn it. Man, ah, I want to know. I really want to know. And of course, he's going to do it. You're the only one who can do it. By yourself, you must do it. Me and Aragi both thought the same thing. You can only save yourself, right? Which, like, again, like, people just save themselves. On their own. So, like, I still think Aragi has this misunderstanding of this, like, line, right? Of this whole idea fundamentally from the beginning. The way he's interpreted the idea of saving himself has kind of been, like, through that lens, through that idea of it has to come purely within yourself. You can't let anyone else influence you. You have to do it. Obviously, that's an illusion. That's impossible, right? That's fake. No one has saved themselves in this whole show in that sense. Everyone has done it with the help of the people who care about them and the people that they care about and all of that stuff, right? Um so yeah. But do I want Araki to save himself? Yes, I want him to save himself literally and also like save Ogi, basically, right? Like that is like saving himself, essentially, right? And I think him killing Ogi, eliminating her, exterminating her, would be the opposite. The threat that the unknown apparition Oshino Ogi poses ultimately boils down to one fact, that she's an unknown. Therefore, revealing her true identity would cause it to collapse. So this is interesting. This whole idea that the darkness would come destroy her once her real identity has been revealed. And not revealed to just anyone, but revealed to, like, Aragi specifically, revealed to her and Aragi. Because Guy and Izuko already knows who she is, right? So it's not just like It's not like the darkness is coming to destroy her. She's been lying this whole time. She's been lying for 6 months, and the darkness hasn't shown up. But what? The instant Araragi knows about it and confronts her with that is when the darkness will appear. It's an interesting thing. We've talked about it before about like what the rules of the darkness showing up actually are. It being like almost a self-determined thing would make a lot of sense to me, right? Like the darkness kind of being this manifestation of like self-destruction and just all that kind of stuff, right? Hajikuji, for example, being so aware of her lies and all of that stuff, and that's why the darkness was showing up to destroy her. Um, Shinobu back, all those hundreds of years ago, her being aware, like, oh, I'm not a god, I'm supposed to be a vampire, and that's why the darkness was showing up to destroy her, right? It being like this representation of like self, like destruction in that way, I guess. Like you being like critical of yourself to that point, like not accepting who you are on some level, I guess, right? There being like this conflict there. And the reason I'm saying this is because it would make sense because Ogi is Aragi, right? So once Aragi is aware of who she is, there's the conflict is out in the open, then the darkness will show up to destroy her, right? It would kind of make sense. And I guess like that's why the darkness won't come destroy Hajikuji when she's the god, because she has accepted this new role as she's the god now on the shrine, right? That's where she's supposed to be, so the darkness won't come kill her. Kind of makes sense. Kind of makes sense to me. I'm trying to think if there's any other like examples of the darkness in that way, but or like that's why like when Hajikuji would be asleep, for example, in Owarimonogatari, the darkness wouldn't come like chase her, right? Was because it's based off of her thoughts, right? It's not anyone else's. She is aware of the fact that she's lying. And if you want to call it lying, exactly, right? Um and she is the only one who has those thoughts in her head. So it's like self-determined. The darkness comes to destroy her when she's awake thinking that. Because of that. Not just her existing in this state made the darkness chase her. That would make a lot of sense to me. So that is maybe, right? Maybe. So what happens when that lie is exposed? Yeah, the darkness, right. Apparitions that lie about what they are get swallowed by the darkness, especially in her case, as she impersonated the darkness itself. The punishment for such a rule violation will be the most severe. So we get all these flashes of like all the times Ogi's shown up. I think they're chronological, right? This was like the day Aragi met her. This was the conversation in Kabuki. And this was like later that day, right? Because wasn't the context of this that Aragi told her the whole story of everything that happened up to Hachikuji being destroyed? Maybe it wasn't like literally the same day. I guess he could have told it to her at like separate times, but something like that, right? Because this was that scene in Kabuki. This was the one at the end of Oni. Well, maybe not, right? Because this was in Nautica Medusa, which is October, and I have it in my head that this was in December, but I don't remember why I think that. I think they just like said it was like some number of months after something, and that's why it was December. But I don't remember exactly what it was, so maybe it's not perfectly chronological, but that's okay. Like the Kaiki stuff, yeah. Hmm. I love the little like evil smile Guy gives us. Thank you. It's interesting because maybe that says something about the way Aragi's viewing her in that moment, right? Like the way he's interpreting everything she's saying, huh? Hmm. So, yeah, an apparition is intrinsically something of that nature. That's why I call Oshinogi an ordinary monster. I like calling her that, though. I do like that term of calling her just ordinary in a way, because I don't know, I think it just serves like the greater purpose here of like the idea that what Aragi is going through here is kind of ordinary in a sense. How at the heart of it, what all of Monogatari has been about for him has been his struggle to accept that he's graduating high school, right? Like what an ordinary thing that is. But if we take that and turn it into such a grand scale, the kind of thing that it does feel personally to yourself. Your own problems never feel ordinary in any sense, so they feel anything but ordinary. That's why in the universe they're oddities. They're very unordinary, supernatural things. If you explain an apparition using science, it becomes an ordinary superstition, right? Hmm. So, Gain-san, your older sister repeated an apparition similar to Ogi-chan, a darkness, no, a quasi-darkness in that manner. That's right. But what happened to it? You know, it was separated into pieces like this and all of that, and it's still around, like, tormenting people in those pieces today, essentially. I don't know. I don't know. Quasi-darkness is more dangerous than the darkness itself. It refuses to allow a tidy ending, and that's where we're at. You know, we're at the ending right now, so that's why we have to deal with her, right? Yeah, yeah. It says that giving everyone a happy ending is cheating. Hmm. As just an interesting thing for her to say, because you would think, like, is that how they always work? This idea of a quasi-darkness, like, never allowing a happy ending to exist? I guess the idea behind it is, like, anyone's system of rules like that is never going to be fair, right? There is no objective set of rules and you know, of the universe that everyone has to abide by that is in any way fair. So, yeah, I guess a happy ending is impossible because of that, because it's just a fantasy in and of itself, right? That's why we must absolutely settle the score once and for all today before the night is over. Yeah, yeah. Well, this is just going through his head, thinking about Ogi asking him for help. I don't know why Ogi said that to me. Looks at Shinobu. In the past, there's a time when I rejected a request from Kiss Shot, Asura Orien, Heart Under Blade. And where did that lead us to, right? That led us to good things, right? You and Shinobu are both much happier now than you ever were back then. I'll give Ogi-chan the same answer as back then, which is kind of a good thing, right? Because, like, where did that lead between you and Shinobu, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know. In that case, saving Shinobu, I kind of agree with his decision, right? It was not a good thing. Saving her in that case would not have been like good, right? Especially now that we've seen the outcome of it, like certainly, right? I won't save Oshino Ogi. So then what does that mean to him, saying he won't save her? I don't know. I don't know. What would it mean to save her exactly? Like, what would saving Ogi mean to Ogi? The same way that saving Shinobu back in Kizu meant killing her, right? I don't know. I don't know. This is a very funny moment. What's the true identity of the mysterious transfer student, Oshino Ogi? Her true identity is cut to a random, completely different scene of Skihi and Nadeko talking. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Literally thank you, because this is like my favorite scene in the entire show. So, I mean, that's okay. That's right. No, this scene is so fucking good. I love this scene so much. Like, man. Um, no, it's just incredible to see Nadeko like this and everything. Oh my god, it just makes me so happy. It makes me so happy to see her, like, just alive and, oh god. No, it's just absolutely amazing. I love it so much. She's working on this manga. She has let the words of Kaiki and the lessons he taught her, like, really into her heart, and she accepts it so much, and she's pursuing what she wants to do. She's alive. I love it. Like, oh my god, I love it so much. It's so good. Like, oh god. Man. So, something that is brought up in this conversation, beyond all the amazing Nautico stuff and her perspective and everything, is just Skihi's, like, nature, right? She kind of has, like, this aimless, um, she has, like, this insecurity within herself, even, about, like, this aimless, like, attitude she has. She's not sure where her future will bring her. All of that stuff. It very much brings up, like, that contrast, kind of that contradiction about whether or not Skihi lacks whatever you would call an identity, or whether or not she very strongly has one. We talked about that, I mean, just a couple episodes ago. That whole idea was brought up about how it's very hard to define Skihi exactly as either of those things. And yeah, the show has directly pointed that out, essentially. And I don't know what is the answer exactly. Like, would you say that Skihi, does she lack an identity in some sense, because of, like, the insecurities and the unsureness in herself she brings up? Or would you say that, like, it's very clear that Skihi is her own person and has her own, it's, like all that stuff. I don't know. It's very difficult to say, huh? Like, yeah, yeah. If you win an award, you get prize money and stuff, right? She's not thinking about any of that. Come on. Like the other thing is obviously, like, Skihi representing, in a sense, that, like, all that monster stuff. To Aragi, what it meant to be a monster is to lose yourself and to lose, like, who you are, to lose your humanity and everything. So, in a sense, like, earlier on in the show, I felt like that's like what Skihi was, right? That she was someone who allowed herself to be so influenced by others that she didn't have like this firm foundation of who she really is in some way. But I just think viewing it in that way is conceding like the point. You're conceding that Aragi's way of viewing it is like correct, right? Which it isn't. So I think even if Skihi herself is unsure of who she is and everything, I mean, just like what Guy and Izuko was saying in this episode, Ogi's identity is not having an identity, and that's still an identity, right? So even though Skihi is unsure of who she is and what she wants to do and all of that, that doesn't mean that Skihi doesn't exist, right? Like whatever you want to say Skihi is, like at her core, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's just really something to think about. Like what it even means to like be lost in that way. Like the reason why Skihi's talking to Nadeko in this conversation is because Nadeko is a character who's very much gone through that, right? She was so defined by like it's not letting herself pursue those things and like be herself in a sense, right? She didn't even know like who she really was in a similar way to Skihi, really. Um yeah. I stopped thinking about confidence and stuff like that. Like Nadeko, I love you so much. Some people have said I might have talent. Kaiki said that. And I mean, it looks like she does. This looks good to me. Like, come on. I mean, like, I don't know what the hell we're doing. It's like, this looks like some, man, Nadeko. I guess there's a market for this kind of thing, huh? I don't know. Not me, but that's okay. That's okay. But even for people with talent, sometimes these things just don't work out. Yeah. Now, it is kind of naive in a way. Maybe that's a bad way to phrase it, but I think it is kind of like, she really took everything Kaiki said to heart, right? And she's like kind of just repeating those things in this conversation. Um, is just you have to wonder, there's a difference between like saying these things and like saying you believe them, actually experiencing them, right? How would Nadeko feel if this really didn't work out? If trying to become a manga artist for her living essentially and trying to pursue this, if it just failed completely and she was not able to actually do this at all, how would she feel if she was faced with that? I don't know, right? It's a very different thing between just saying it and actually experiencing it and like how you're going to feel then, you know. You won't make it to the top tier unless you believe in your talent, sure. Otherwise, you won't have anything to sustain you and you can't keep going. People who rely on working hard will be disheartened when they can't keep going. So that's an interesting thing for Skihi to say, right? Nadeko kind of takes issue with it too. She says, it feels like you're trying to trick me. I don't know. I mean, like, because the crux of what Skihi is saying here is like you have to believe in your talent. It's not like whether or not you have to have talent exactly. It's kind of a nebulous thing, right? What talent even means, but I guess the idea that you have to believe that what you're doing is good and that you're good at it and all of that, and that if you yeah, that you'll just burn yourself out otherwise, that you'll be disheartened when you can't keep going. Maybe, I don't know. Like I'm trying to think what to say about this in a way that applies to like Skihi as a character exactly, but I'm just not sure. Does it say something about the way Skihi feels about herself and all of that? Like something about the reason why she, like the way she felt about like justice, for example. Back in that conversation with Aragi about the Fire Sisters and stuff, how she said that she feels like Karen has such a strong like heart of justice or whatever, whatever her phrasing was, and that she feels like she's different, that she like doesn't have that, that she just kind of feels like she doesn't have the same like strong drive that so many other people have, and that's why she ends up like what, just being influenced by others so much and letting other people, kind of following them in a sense. I guess so. Maybe this is kind of an insecurity that she herself has in a way. I don't know. Kind of feels like you're trying to trick me. I just do what I want to do, no matter how unsightly or embarrassing it is. It feels amazing to hear her say that. More things that come up later, right? Something that Ougi says, doing what you want to do. Ougi calls herself unsightly. Yeah. This very, I mean, kind of this contrast between Nadeko and Ougi as well. It makes you wonder what Ougi's goal was with Nadeko exactly. Like, everything that Ougi did with her put her on this path that led her towards becoming, God Nadeko, which like sucked for her and everything. And then it was Kaiki who got her out of that situation. So Was Ogi's goal to turn Nautiko into God Nautiko and like leave her that way? And like that's what she thought was right in some sense. I'm not really sure like why though. I'm not really sure like what to say about that, how that connects to like the ideology that Ogi represents or anything. You know what I mean? Hmm. Because I guess you could say Ogi representing like the rules and everything that Araragi thinks are so important. There's a lot of stuff about old Nautiko, like her not pursuing what she wants, her not kind of having, that idea of her own identity and all of that stuff. Uh, that could be something that you could say conflicts with like Araragi's ideas of humanity and all of that, but yes, I just don't know how what Ogi did with her would in any way like apply to that, you know? Just not sure exactly. Hmm. So I just do what I want to do, no matter how unsightly or embarrassing it is. Skihi-chan, aren't you like that too? I really don't have things I want to do or goals or stuff of that sort. Is that even true? Maybe. That's just kind of sad in a way, isn't it? But at the same time, I think that makes sense. Like, how many people when you were younger, like around like Skihi's age, like middle school, right? Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do with the rest of your life? Like, how many people do? That's right. Like, that's a lot of pressure, you know? For me, I remember it's like when I would be asked, like, what I want to do when I grow up as a kid, I would always struggle answering it because, like, I didn't really have like a firm idea of something that's actually like achievable for me or anything like that, you know? A lot of people have answers that they may give that's probably something like fantastical, like, oh, I'm gonna, I don't know, become an astronaut or something. Like the kind of common answers that like kids might give, probably younger than Skihi, but you know what I mean, in terms of what they want to do with their life, and like that's good and all, but is that achievable? Is that really what you're going to pursue? Like probably not, right? Hmm. That's why I like supporting what other people do like this, I guess. Interesting, and it's really like this two-way street for Skihi, which I like because it's very negative to view the whole idea of like being a monster in terms of just the way that Aragi did, that way of thinking of it as other people like eroding away like who you are and your identity and all of that stuff by letting yourself be influenced by them. But for Skihi, like she helps other people, right? It's like just very foundational like what a relationship is supposed to be, right? Like it's like a two-way thing, you know? Um you influence other people and other people influence you, and that's just like how it works, right? To me, there isn't anyone else with as clear a stance on life as you. Yeah, so this is when like that kind of that contrast is like first brought up, right? Of what you would say like Skihi's identity is, or like her lack of identity or not, according to Nautico. Hmm. I'm honored by you saying that. Just how lucky is Skihi-chan. From a bit more nihilistic or maybe destructive. So there's a part of me that gets drawn to people who want to do things. And it's interesting that she says that she's nihilistic or destructive. I also wonder why exactly Nautico thinks of Skihi like that she has such a strong stance on life. I kind of feel like what Skihi just said, the whole thing about helping other people, is a strong enough stance in and of itself, right? Like that to me feels like it rings true as like a stance on life that gives you like purpose and all of that. But I don't know. What does Skihi mean by saying she's like nihilistic or destructive? I'm just not sure. I am not sure exactly what you would say. I'm just trying to think. I was trying to think about everything she's done. I don't know. I don't know. That's like it's got to be a negative way of viewing it, obviously, right? But, hmm. Are you talking about Karen-san or Kiyomi-san? Well, yeah, that and hoping Naruko-chan's job like this. Hmm. It's your job. Come on. This is your job now. Get used to it. What time is it? It's like 2 something, 2:20, I guess. Cool. I wonder what eventually happens to people like me. I have to think about my plans for the future before it's too late. And yet another theme that's brought up over and over again in this episode is the future. Um Ougi thinks the future doesn't exist. She said as much several times, like to Aragi, about him having no future, right? There being only an eternal present. That's all you can think about. It makes me think, like back in like the Kiyomi Monogatari chapter ones, the idea of the path. It makes me think of that idea of like always looking at your feet, kind of, right? Like always being focused on the next step you take, being paralyzed by indecision, like Aragi so frequently is in everything in his life. It feels in terms of just the literal, next step you take on the path that you're on. Um, That's kind of what it makes me think of, right? That idea of having an eternal present, not being able to think of the far future in that way, it being like a luxury to do so, or like very naive to think of the far future because you have to take the steps that are going to lead you there, and by the time you get there, it'll just be the present, right? So I guess I get what Ogi's saying, but yeah, it's just like kind of at its core is just this deep anxiety about, of course, like the path you're on in life and all of that. Which I mean, is very meaningful for all these characters, for Aragi, for Nadeko, for Skihi. Yeah, it's brought up time and time again in this episode, right? Karen-chan is entering high school. Oni-chan will go into college. Hmm. Because right now I'm feeling left behind again, just like I did 2 years ago when I was in sixth grade. That is interesting. When she was in sixth grade, like when is that like when you enter? I don't know. Is that when you enter middle school? I don't know how Japanese like schools work exactly, but I wonder. I wonder what was happening when she was in sixth grade. I should decide what I want to do, who I want to be. Just like you, Nautica-chan. I love that. I love that so much, you know? And I don't think that's in any way contradictory. Like that's such a good message because that's not contradictory to the idea of her representing like that whole idea of being a monster in a sense. It's like she's deciding for herself who she is rather than it being like this existing like core of her being or something the way like Aragi viewed humanity, right? Like the idea that you can't change yourself or it's a betrayal of yourself. Like, no, Skihi is, she's only changed. She will just decide who she is completely, Like, yeah, yeah. Just having you say something like that makes doing this worth the effort. Ah, God. I'm so glad these two have, like, this friendship, too. Like, man, ah, even if people can't become happy, good things happen to them as long as they're alive. That's like exactly what Kaiki said, right? Well, I guess that's true. I love how like it seems like Skihi doesn't get like particular meaning out of that like phrase. It's something that means so much to Nautiko, right? It's something that hit her in like this perfect way and meant so much to her. But it really is like such a simple thing. It's something that I think, Skihi's really good at living, right? Maybe she already has that down in a sense, right? I don't know. I don't know. I just love that. So then it's time for some deeply terrifying scenes of Ougi and Skihi. They're just very like the ominous, It's very there's really this vibe to them. I mean, look at the colors, right? Like obviously, God. So this is Ogi's final job, right? This is what she said. It's worth dying for, and of course it is. Skihi, Aragi's acceptance of Skihi and what that means for him is like the core of all of this, right? Like that's yeah, yeah. It makes complete sense that this is it. That this is her final thing that she has to do. I love how she immediately starts her gaslighting. She does that to all the Araragis, I guess. Heard a lot about you from your big brother. He's very proud of you. Like that's immediately that's like an interesting way to phrase it. If you think of Skihi as being representative of that part of Araragi, saying that he's very proud of her says something about the way he views himself and stuff, right? I don't know if you would say Aragi's very proud of himself, I guess, but I don't know. I don't know. So we go on this bike ride. Ski standing up, T-posing on the back. It feels like very like there's some, she's like making a cross shape, feels like symbolic. I also like how she wraps her hair around her arms. I guess it's like so long. If she just sat down, it like get tangled in the ground or something. I don't know. I don't know. Sengoku-chan doing well. This is a really good pun, right? Was she dead-zu or not dead-zu? Shindenzu, Shindenaizu. Yeah, right. Right. But I love Skihi's answer. She's alright. She's not dead. If anything, it's more like she was dead before now. Yeah, yeah. That idea of like being alive in that sense, right? Perhaps. Well, they say there's more to everyone than just being cute. Yeah, we kind of talk more about like the, Nautico's like cuteness stuff. I I don't know. I feel like there has to be something deeper to it, something we can apply about all of this to another character exactly, but I'm not sure. I think Ogi's spot on with everything she says here about, cuteness, being a pretty girl, being something that for Nautico, yeah, was just something that she inflicted herself with and was like this horrible, yeah, constraining thing that led to like self-harm and all of that for her. Um, so maybe I guess you could say that Ogi is in a sense kind of explaining why she did what she did with Nadeko, I guess. Like she turned her into the god, essentially, put her on that path to becoming God Nadeko, but that didn't really free Nadeko of like the pressure of having to be cute or having to be a pretty girl or anything. If anything, that felt like character regression. It got even worse, right? Like it just being a god, as Kaiki said, just added even more on top of that, right? So I don't know. I don't know. We got more traffic lights. Terrifying. I got a scariest thing in the episode. Things like that are so sad. Aren't you lucky if you're cute? For Sengoku-chan, cuteness was a chain to bind herself with. But still, I'm sure it was too precious a talent for her to get rid of by herself. She needed some drastic measures. Like, obviously, I guess, I mean, unless you want to say that somehow Ogi's whole plan was to have even Kaiki do everything he did, but I somehow, I don't think Ogi's, like, omniscient and knew that all of that was going to happen. But I don't know. I don't know. What are you talking about? Who knows? I don't. Thank you, Ogi. Thank you. Sengoku-chan seems to want to be a manga artist in the future. Aragi Tsukiji-chan, what do you want to be? Ogi. Ogi is supposed to be this thing that guides you into the future, right? She's supposed to be the, she makes you follow the rules, she guides you into to what the just right future is supposed to be. Skihi is this character who's very much defined by her kind of being this wandering soul who doesn't know what she wants yet, doesn't have a defined future at all. She's literally immortal, right? She, like, the future for her is infinite, it goes on forever. She doesn't even have to define what she wants to do in the future because she can do anything, right? She could do and become everything ever, because she could live forever because she's immortal. So yeah, it's that's what Ogi means when she says she's omniscient, or not omniscient, but omnipotent, because she literally can do everything, right? And that's like a scary concept, isn't it? Like, there's no, in a sense, there isn't a future for her in a way. She will only have this eternal present because she can never arrive at the end. She will never arrive at her future, in a sense. There will always be an infinite more of it out there. And in a way, that's kind of just true for everyone, right? Not that you will live forever, not that everyone will, or that anyone will, but that there's never a moment where you're at the end, right? Aragi's way of thinking is so defined by that. It's so focused on, like, the end, right? We're at the end now. For the past 30 episodes, we've been watching End Story, right? Owarimonogatari. Ski doesn't have one of those. She doesn't have an end. I don't think anyone really does. Like, there's never a moment where, like, what? You give up and you're done? It's like, I don't know, right? There'll be a moment where you die, sure, but I don't know. Is there some point where you're just before then where your life is just over? Maybe if you live to 120 and you're stuck in a bed and you can't move any of your arms and you're blind or something like that. I guess, but I don't know. Maybe in that sense that's kind of the end in a way, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean, right? I don't really have anything. That's such a sad way for her to phrase it, right? She doesn't have anything that she wants to be. I'm fine as long as I'm enjoying the present. And this is, like, another reason why I think Skihi being Ogi's final, like, target makes sense. Because Skihi, not only just because of the whole monster thing with Araragi, but also this whole idea, the way she views the future and herself and the present and all of that, it's like the antithesis of Ogi and, like, what she is and what her purpose is supposed to be, right? So what was Ogi? What was her goal with Skihi? Was it to try and fix that? Try and give her a path? Try and give her some kind of meaning? Try and force it on her with the rules? Maybe. Maybe. I wonder. I feel like those times link together to form the future. I kind of agree, yeah. You're not the type who knows everything, but you are the type who can do everything. You may not be omniscient, but you are omnipotent, so you have too many choices. And your objectives are probably scattered all over the place. Yeah, she doesn't have this constraining view of the future the same way Araragi does, right? For Araragi, the future is like this set of these doors he's got to walk through, or rather, I guess, in his case, the splits in the path, right? That he's got to go down. He's got to pick one every time he gets, to another important like part of his life, right? And graduation of high school is like the most important one to him right now. Ski doesn't have those, Which, I mean, in Owarimonogatari, isn't that what she said, right? Wasn't her answer to Aragi's question back then that she, like, grows wings and flies over the path or whatever? I'm pretty sure, right? So, makes complete sense, doesn't it? She doesn't have to she's not constrained in the same way. Yeah, her future's too large in scale. Makes sense. Makes complete sense to me now. Yeah. Are you saying I'm too dependent? That's an interesting way for Skihi to interpret that, because it feels like that's not what Ougi said at all. you know? I don't really think so. I think that's an insecurity that Skihi herself may have, I guess. Which again that's kind of the core of the idea of being a monster, right? Skihi-chan, it's a fact that the support of those around you is what's keeping you alive. Right, I agree, in terms of like everyone relies on others to be alive, right? No matter what. There was never a moment for Aragi where he could have called himself fully human, because he was always reliant on those around him, no matter what. There are always others that are part of your life in some way like that. Without your big brother and big sister's help, you could have died during summer break. Sure, sure. The thing about people is they can't live alone. I agree, right? Not in like the like literal being alive, I guess, right? People live of their own accord. Sure, like people stay alive of their own accord, but I don't think you really like live. You know what I mean? Like there's this distinction there. What can't live on their own accord are monsters. And we've come full circle. Like that's it, right? And that's like the way Ogi views herself too. She calls herself unsightly in all of this because she, based off her own rules, is like, this part of another person. She only exists because of Aragi's like the way that he sees her and all of that stuff, right? She's formed from him as an oddity, so she is a monster in that sense, right? Yeah, yeah, like you and me. Huh. So we arrive at the ghost of the cram school building, of course. Makes sense, makes sense. Of course, this would be where it all ends. This was kind of where it all began for Aragi, right? This is where he awoke in Kizu after he died. This was like the place of his first revival in a sense, right? Yeah, this is where he must face himself in the end. Makes complete sense. There's the tree. Right, right. So we go in. Ogi said. So I was for a second I thought this was like her bike, like unlock like thing. It was just all zeros, right? Which makes sense to her because like the whole like association between Ogi and zero, it all comes back to zero. But apparently it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, which I don't know what's meaning exactly to make of that. Obviously, like ascending numbers, right, is a very simple code, but I don't know. I don't know. Hmm. So it was exciting to barge in like this, but now we know exactly what it is. We start talking about mystery novels. We start talking about a true identity. Once we figure out its true identity, it ceases to be scary at all. Something that very much applies to both Ogi and Skihi. That whole idea of what a true identity even is, like for Skihi, and like who Ogi is at all, I guess, right? Ogi's identity has been granted to her by another, by Aragi. That's like her existence is only that. In a sense, she's purely a monster because she doesn't have her own at all. She's purely this part of Aragi, right? Your heart's racing as you read them because you don't know who did it. When the mystery is no longer a mystery and you're down to one suspect, to be honest, it's no fun after that. I wish all solution scenes were just one line long, huh? I don't know what to make of that line exactly. Wish they were all just one line long. Once the true identity is known, the fear and the fun disappear. That's how things are. Huh. What would that mean in this case, right? Like for this story, for Monogatari. The solution just being one line long. In a sense, I think the solution is simple. I think you could sum it up and make it be one line long, like for Aragi and for like what I want him to do. But I don't think it's ever that simple. I don't think it can be achieved in one line. Like Hmm. Hmm. You really think so? In a mystery novel, that might be the case, but in reality, isn't it scarier after the culprit's caught? You confirm the existence of something that scared you. I guess, like, what this makes me think about is, like, what it means for Araragi that Ougi is him, right? Like, what the... there's a lot to that, right? There's a lot to the idea of him recognizing that and grappling with that fact. So... Huh. I don't know. I don't know. The real story doesn't begin until you know what they really are. I mean, all the paperwork and stuff after the corporate is caught takes way longer, right? So once you've confirmed their true identity, that's when the real story starts, huh? I don't know. I don't know what to think of that exactly. Right? Like, your life doesn't really start until your true identity has been confirmed. I don't know. I don't know. Hmm. You say the true identity, but but it's not always going to be correct. Like, I'm just... It might actually be an even bigger plot twist if you're talking about mystery novels, right? If we're talking about mystery novels. What would the bigger plot twist be? Am I just being trolled? Am I not supposed to think about it this deeply? I don't know. I don't know. Like, huh. That may be true. I see. True identity is written as right body. Right, right. In the end, a body is merely a body. You got me there. Nothing less from Aragi-senpai's little sister. Skihi-chan, they may have accepted your true identity. Perhaps they're amused by it, but the same probably isn't going to happen for me. Yeah, Ogi's very sure that she herself won't be accepted in the same way. That Aragi will not be able to accept, like, who he used to be as well as who he currently is, right? Like, truly make that the progress that he needs to make in that way. Like, reach the conclusion that I really want him to reach in that way, right? Because Ogi also thinks that would be the right thing for Aragi to do, to not do that, right? To reject her asking for help. Yeah, true identity is unsightly. It makes sense, you know, that's how she views it. That's why it would be the right thing for Oki to reject her. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately for you, what you're calling a future doesn't actually exist. It's not that you don't know what will happen in the future. There is no future. No matter how much of a present you pile up, it won't lead to a future. Yeah, yeah. It just makes me think about all, like, the insecurities and stuff like that are tied up in the idea of the future for Araragi. Those will never go away, you know? Like, no matter what he does, as long as he's living his life like this and thinking of it in that, like, framework, there will never be a moment where he reaches the future, you know. It will just be this endless, like, cycle like this forever, you know. There will be yeah, it'll just keep going on like this forever, right? All you have is an eternal present. Even so, can you live in the present, ignoring what's to come, disregarding the future? Is that really what it is? Well, probably. I'm pretty good at living. Huh. It's a marvelous thing that you can say that. I'm jealous. She's jealous, huh? She's jealous. And I think it makes sense that she'd be jealous because, like, yeah, because again, it's like that's fundamentally, that's what all of the insecurities and everything that Ogi is formed from for Aragi. That's what it all comes down to, right? Is that unsureness of the future, just the dark, hazy fog that clouds your vision when you try and look far out into where your life is leading, you know? Just that uncertainty fundamentally. Yeah, yeah. And Skihi, that exists for her, but she focuses, she's present, you know, she exists in the moment, right? Yeah, yeah, that's a very hard thing to do, you know. Gotta live every day as if a volcano's gonna erupt and kill you tomorrow. It's maybe not take it that far, but you know what I mean, right? Like, it's very hard to live like that, right? Yeah, yeah. Because everyone feels like they're so defined by their future. You know, everyone is, in a way. How everyone in their life is always thinking about tomorrow and what you're going to be doing and where your life is leading you down the line and all of that stuff. And I don't think that's bad, right? I don't think there's something wrong with that exactly, but yeah, that's just fundamentally that's always been the issue for Aragi is his inability to cope with that, right? Cope with, I guess, who he is in that way, defining yourself by the future that you're working towards, you know. That's why, in a sense, he doesn't have an identity in Ogi's eyes, because that future for her will always be undefined, because there will always be more of it, right? God, what a throwback. You're late, Ogi-chan. I've been waiting for you. Man, we've, like, God, we've come full circle, right? Just like what Oshino would always say to him. It's him talking to Ogi, who is in a way like his old self, right? God damn, it's crazy, isn't it? Skihi goes and takes her bike and heads home. Skihi on the bike, huh? Which is interesting because of the bike kind of feel like it's representative for Aragi of like his adolescence in a way. Ougi giving it up, she knows it's the end. She would never give up her bike, let Skihi take it otherwise, right? Yeah, yeah. Ah, it's very sad, it's very scary. Ougi knows what she's here for. Ougi knows what's going to happen. She said she was willing to die for it, and she is, right? God. So we have a little talk. We have a little talk between Ougi and Aragi. Ougi asks him about Shinobu, about everything, everything he's planning to do in the future, of course. And Aragi keeps answering, that hasn't happened yet. We have to deal with the now, with the present, with the current time, right? We decided to bind ourselves to each other again once everything's resolved. Shinobu-chan wished to end up back where she started, huh? And you want to become a quasi-human again, a failed attempt at a vampire. It's like, God, it's, so many of her lines feel like they're so, like, inside Aragi's head, right? Like, it's, like, more than ever, like, this line especially, like, just what she just said, it feels like such a representation of the way Aragi feels about all this, like, because everything he's done throughout the whole story leading up to this moment and what graduating high school means for him is like all those things are like locked in a sense, right? That this was it. This was his final year of high school, and this is what he made of it, and is he okay with that? Is he okay with locking in all of those decisions? Essentially, he's been given the chance to turn back on them, to separate himself from Shinobu, to become someone like he was before, forsake them, as Ougi said, right? Is he really okay with those decisions being the decisions he made in his final year of high school, right? Leading him up to the future, right? Yeah. Oh, I just love young girls. Right. Thank you, Araki. I answer while feeling this conversation is meaningless. I mean, you're talking to yourself, right? So what will happen to the girl? She'll be enshrined at North Shore Heavy Shrine. That will also happen once everything was resolved. Yeah, yeah. So that shrine, figuring out what to do with the giant hole that opened in this town is a big problem, right? Just, for me, like, the way I read this line is Araragi figuring out what to do with the giant hole in himself, right? The hole that opened up in himself in his last year of high school, after what happened in Kizu, after, like, the foundations of his being were shaken and changed so much. Ah, he sure found a convenient solution for it. Yeah. Yeah. Her job. Speaking of jobs, my little sister, that was her final one. What kind of lovely conversation did you have with her? Job ended up half done. What was supposed to be the thing she would die for, right? That was a tough one. Nothing less from a phoenix. It's beyond what I can handle. How was Kaganui Yojiru going to exterminate such a long-lived creature? This, like, line is interesting to me just because, again, it's like back then in Issei, Kaganui was this representation of, like, justice and all of that for Aragi. And he, like, he fought back against her and stove her off and all of that, but I don't know. I don't know. You can exterminate monsters once you reveal their true identities, right? I'm saying you probably can't exterminate her, even if you do reveal her true identity. Because her big brother refuses to stop loving her, even knowing what her true identity is. What these lines mean to me, I guess, is like, the way that Aragi, no matter what, will like be himself, I guess, right? That no matter what, Aragi will keep living. He will continue to, maybe saying love himself is wrong, but he will, in some sense, like what? Yeah, continue to be alive, right? Even knowing himself to be a monster in some way. He still accepted Ski. He still accepted himself through that on some level, right? And yeah, so even then, no matter what, no matter who he is in that sense, no matter what his true identity is as a monster, yeah, she still can't be exterminated, and I don't think that will happen to Aragi either, right? She made it home safe. That might be why Kaganui Yozuru gave up. It was, right? Yeah, yeah. Well, I suppose I'm not quite able to do the same thing. And it's such a strong contrast, right? In a sense, kind of Ougi being who he used to be in a way, right? Representing all that stuff, right? All the things she's done, the self-destruction and like the harm to other people, all of that stuff. Aragi having to come to terms with that, very different from a lot harder, really, than accepting who he is now, even, right? And we keep cutting to his face, right? Just like this very emotionless, oh, yeah. Reveal my true identity and I'll be exterminated right here. That's how this works, right? And we get this shot of us, like, being swallowed by her eye. Because yeah, we're still working, like, within her framework, essentially. A one-on-one duel, as they say. That's quite exciting. This time, it's something I have to do myself. It's something only I can do. It really is, right? But that doesn't mean you're alone, really. It's something I want to do alone. What do you want to do, huh? It's, like, interesting, this line from her, what you want to do. She says it in such a, like, a I don't even know how to describe her tone exactly, but it just feels very it's like what she said to Skihi about being jealous, how Ougi never really had a chance, she was never able to define what she wants to do, really, right? It makes me think of, like, the last line of Kizu, too, at the very end, when Aragi said to Oshino, like, he's just gonna do what he wants or whatever, that he'll never get tired of it. He'll never get tired of the situation with Shinobu, That's kinda what it makes me think of. I forget what his exact wording was, but it was something like this, right? That he just does it because he likes it or whatever. Yeah, it's a very, very hard thing to define. Perhaps you think that only because there's adults persuaded you to do it. Yeah, maybe is this really you, right? Is this not just you having been influenced by all of these people? Yeah, yeah. One tends to find excessive value in something that was almost lost. But if you bind yourself to such nostalgia, you'll never arrive at your future. God. Really laying it on thick. Right, right. Can you be on my side? Please help me. Completely denied. Yeah, yeah. That's the correct answer, right? And this is, we talked about this. Yeah, it's the right thing, it's what she wanted. She wanted him to refuse. That's playing into her way of viewing things still. His way of viewing things, right? Yeah, yeah, he's not accepting the change that he should, essentially, through that, right? Oh man. Ogi-chan, your true identity is me. It's the end of the episode. Man, I love that episode so much. I literally feel like no matter what, I will never be happy with my discussion for this episode because there's always going to be more that I feel like I could have talked about. Like, no matter what. This feels like literally the episode with the most stuff in it to think about and talk about out of any episode ever in Monogatari. So, I don't know. If you guys have any thoughts about the giant number of things in this episode, like the themes, so many themes that are brought up in this episode, the idea of being alive, and what you want to do, and the future, and all of that stuff, just the giant themes that are discussed in this episode. I would love to hear if anyone else has anything to say about it, what they take from it, what they think about it. Because I feel like no matter what, I would literally never be entirely happy with just the way I think about it, just the words I said in this discussion. So, man, please leave a comment telling me what you think if you have thoughts on all of it. God, what a good episode. What a good episode. That was a bit of a long one, huh? Well, this episode deserved it, that's for sure. Oh, okay. I guess that's it. Man, what the hell is going to happen in the next episode, huh? I'm no matter what, I'm not ready. No matter what, I'm not ready for it. So, but it's coming all the same. The future will arrive no matter what. The eternal present will eventually arrive at the day where I will watch the next episode. So, I guess we'll do that next time. So, if you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and I will see you in the next one.